Charlie. I'm coming to you today from my locals community with your daily dose of business inspiration. Come on over and join me at askcharlyleetham.locals.com. Follow along for free or become a supporter for only $2 US per month to be able to join in the conversation and add your voice to what I'm talking about here. Now, being a supporter does all that for you. It also helps me to keep creating content like this, like my podcasts, like my tutorials, and it ensures that we aren't hit by spammers and trolls. I'd love to have you over there either as a visitor, as a member, or as a supporter. Whichever way it goes, I'd love to see you there. Now, let's get on with our daily dose of business inspiration. I'm going to talk about onboarding team members today, a little bit of a change of pace from all the inspirational stuff about, are we failing? Are we succeeding? What are we doing? I want to talk about something more practical, and that's about onboarding your team members. Do you have an onboarding process for your team members? If you bring a new subcontractor on, if you bring a new employee on, if you bring a new partner on, do you have an onboarding process so that you know that they've got all the information that they need and you've got all the information you need? If you don't, why not? What's stopping you? What is it that is tripping you up? Because I'd love to know that. And if so, how is it working out for you? So let me just go through a couple of things about onboarding a team member from my perspective, because I'm about to bring someone else into my team. And I thought, let me have a look at my onboarding process. It needed a bit of an update because I've changed things a little and I don't have a high turnover in my business partners and in my subcontractors. So I had to go back and review it. So onboarding a team member to me means you make sure you get all of your documentation in place. Do you know who they are? Do you know how to contact them? And by contact them, I mean, I get an email address. I try to get a phone number. I also try to get a physical address because sometimes I like to send off little gifts to people or little handwritten notes to say thanks so much for being part of the team, not so that I can send people to knock on the door and say, hey, what are you doing? But I like to get as much information as I can about my subcontractors so I know how to get in touch with them if one method fails, one method of communication fails. I also need to put in place my agreements with them. So I have a independent contractor agreement because I have subcontractors, and I also have a non-disclosure agreement that they sign because they work for me and for my clients as well. So I need to make sure that the information that I'm sharing with them stays private and confidential. So a non-disclosure agreement. And then finally, I have an attachment to all of that, or a schedule to all of those agreements, that talks about what services they're going to provide me, the hours they're going to provide them to me within, the fee I'm going to pay them, just the general details. So when it comes down to, but you said, I can go back to the contract and say, well, actually, in the contract, this is what was said. You sign that. Is if this is a problem, that's fine. Let's talk about it. But this is what we agreed to, or this is what I think we agreed to. And I've got something concrete. We're not relying on memory to get back to that, because sometimes you get really stressed and sometimes things are just really, really tight and you're like, oh my goodness, what do I do? So that's what I do before I even start getting the team member on board. So the next thing I do is I make sure they have access to my systems. Do they need an email address? Do they need access to my CRM? Do they need access to my password vault? Do they need access to my social media management, my campaigns, whatever else it is? I make sure that I know what systems they need access to, and I make sure they have that access available to them. Now, I actually set this up in my CRM. I have a module in my CRM that is team member onboarding. And I go through and I tick them all off as I put them into all together. I tick them all off. And then I send them an email, because that's normally how we communicate, with all of those details in it. From there, I then do a little bit of training, bring them in again, sit down with them, do a little bit of training about, okay, this is how we use this system. This is how we use this system. I now have a knowledge base, and a lot of my training is actually pre-recorded, so they can sit down and go through that training themselves. Then I will connect with them and say, do you have any questions? How's it going? And then I get them to do some work for me. So there's a lot of work to do just before they also even before, not just before, even before they get to do the work for me. And the one thing I try not to do is throw my new subcontractors straight into the deep end. Try to give them something small and easy to cut their teeth on so that they can make sure that they understand the systems, that they're using the systems, that the systems work for them, and they're not feeling like I'm just going to hang them out to dry if something goes wrong. So tell me about your onboarding of team members. Do you do it? If not, why not? If so, how's it working for you? What have you found works really well, and what have you found that doesn't work quite so well for you? Please remember to like this video, subscribe to my channel, ring the notification bell so that you find out when I'm putting up more content. Leave a review if you can, and if you know someone who would benefit from this type of content, please share the video with them or share the channel to them. I'd love you to do that. I will see you all tomorrow, guys. Bye.